Pablo Batista, and welcome to Sabes Que. I'm your co-host. Please welcome and help me welcome our incredible host, Mr. Jesse Bermudez. Jesse!
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Pablo. I'm like every week, I seem to be so excited, and I'm extra excited this week with our guest because, man, he's really done a whole lot for Philadelphia as far as the music is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Jess. I agree with you. But anyway, before we go to our host, I wanted to thank you and let the world know we've been doing these episodes and we've been interviewing some incredible pioneers in the Latin music industry, and this guest is I thought it was really incredibly important for us to have him as you suggested it. So, but how you been, Jess? You been good? You ready for another great show?
Yo, I'm always ready for a great show. You know, specifically when we're talking about Philadelphia and the Philadelphia folks, and we're talking about the music that we love so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm really excited. And by the way, you know what? I want to congratulate you, okay, because you're on this special recording that just won Song of the Year. You recorded with her and you on that recording. Congratulations, man. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, it must have
Yeah.
been a tremendous experience, huh?
Well, yeah, I'm blessed to have recorded the parts on hers. I Can't Breathe, and it won Song of the Year. So I'm super excited. So shout out to her for writing an amazing song. And but enough about me. This is not about me. This is today. It's all about our special guest who's been a pioneer in Philadelphia for over 44 years. He's been nourishing our community with amazing music and knowledge and keeping the traditions alive. And I'm talking about the incredible Mr. David Ortiz, the DJ on WRTI. David, how are you? Welcome.
Yeah,
I'm great, bro. I'm feeling blessed. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Wonderful. David, thank you for agreeing to this interview because a lot of people hear your music and been hearing it for years and years and years, but maybe they haven't listened to a little bit of David Ortiz and what's he all about and who is he and why this incredible period of time in his life that he devoted to music. So
Yeah,
Pablo,
yeah.
you're going to
Yeah, well, David,
let's try to get a lot out of David here while we have him.
yeah. Well, no, Dave, I think it's important, man, for people to know where you came from, your roots, your beginnings, and all the way to all this amazing.
North Philly, born and raised.
All right, all right, all right. When were you born, David?
1957, brother.
All right.
The age of black and white TV
Yes,
and no cable.
Okay, I remember that. David, so like, where did you go to school? What was your upbringing, and how did you get involved
St.
with
Peter's, Fifth and Girard, Father Judge, and Temple.
All right. So you went to Temple as well. Cool, cool. Did you what years did you get out of Temple?
I'm sorry?
What year did you get out of Temple?
80.
80. Ah, nice. So what made you fall in love with this music thing? How did you get involved with all of this, bro? How
Well,
did you?
my sister, at the age of 17, turned me on to this album, which I'm going to show you the picture of
Okay.
in the book. It's Cachao y su descarga. And she
Cachao.
said, listen to this. It's one of my mom's albums. She said, listen to this, see if you like it or not. And I got hooked on from that, and I started going through all her albums.
Wow. So your mom had a Cachao record?
My mom had everything. This is one of my mom's albums right here.
That's incredible. Oh, that's beautiful.
David, your father was an actor also too, right?
Well, my father was a bodeguero, man, just a grocery store owner.
Really?
Okay.
That's so crazy.
He was a character, though.
Well, for those that don't know what a bodeguero is, articulate a little bit on that. Good.
Corner grocery store owner in
Right.
North Philly in El Barrio.
Right.
One of the
Wow.
first, because he came from New York to Philly in 1955.
Mm, mm.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He came from New York to Philadelphia
Yes.
in 55. Okay, fantastic.
Right.
David, what I'd like for you to talk a little bit about is this progression in these 44 years. Uh, we know where you're at right now, but a lot of folks don't know where you started and what was going on and the programs that were, at different times and the things that kind of like took place to get you from point A to point B.
Well, just to give you an evolution of the show and the station itself, when I first started in 77, WRTI was called The Point.
Mm-hmm.
Then it moved to Jazz 90. Then it moved to Jazz FM. Now currently it's called WRTI 90.1. So that's the evolution of the station itself. My show started 12 to 4 on Saturdays, then moved 12 to 3, then moved 2 to 5, and finally moved in 96 to Saturday nights, 8 to 12, now 9 to 12.
So those are the time spans that you have. But let's talk a little bit about those time spans. Were you on from 12 to 3 or 12 to 4, whatever that was at first?
Oh, I was on both times, 12 to 4 first, and then they brought it down to 12 to 3. I was on in the afternoons, and the phones were ringing off the hook because everybody found out I was on RTI on Saturdays, and they heard the program near and far. As far as the station could go, at one time it was just the one frequency. Now it's about 10. And
well, you get all of Delaware Valley and all of that.
I get Delaware Valley, Lehigh Valley. I go out to as far west, frequency-wise, as Harrisburg.
Reading,
cover the Jersey Shore.
Right.
Up Reading, up in the Poconos, Schuylkill County. Now, of course, with the internet and the WRTI free app, you can listen to me from anywhere. I mean, I get emails from Colombia.
Oh, fantastic.
From Colorado, from Hawaii.
Nice.
Saying they're in tune. I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
Well, so, David, I want you to go back to when you started, and I want you to talk a little bit about your relationship with the Philly musicians. And
well, AMLA started, I believe, in 81. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The what?
AMLA, the Association of Latin American Musicians?
82.
82, yeah. Okay. My show started in 77. Of course, some local bands like La Paz already had an album out, so I was able to play their music. In fact, they were kind of the only ones that really had an album out locally. Then a couple of other guys, Ernie Sanz de la Mosagua came out, Orquesta Fuego. These were like in the early 80s.
Right.
Came out, La Combinación Latina.
Right, I remember, right.
Just some of the local bands. Orquesta Lucena.
Right.
Came out with a 45, Latin Lady, Latin Lover.
Right.
So it was a support of local music back and forth. And then like when we had our fundraisers, back in the day, we would have first at the station in the spring and the winter. And then we kind of evolved and went outside. We used to broadcast in front of Centro Musical when it was on North 5th Street.
On 5th Street, right.
In the early 80s.
I remember.
And then we evolved even further. And we broadcast one Saturday afternoon from Sylvie's up at 5th and Pike. I want to say this was like 1988, 87. And the owner said, nobody's going to come. It's Saturday afternoon. We got 500 people to show up.
Wow.
To Sylvie's between 12 and 4 during a live broadcast of El Viaje. We had 5 bands playing of their own free will.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I love to hear, because it's like they loved you. You were on the airways. They did music, and you permitted their music to be heard by the community. And this was this great relationship,
right.
Not only with the musicians, but even Centro Musical.
Yeah.
The record shop, which is kind of like a lot of people feel that was our hub there as far as music was concerned. But when you talked about Sylvie's, you did quite a few things there as far as fundraisers are concerned.
We did quite a few live broadcasts. We did some live broadcasts.
Uh-huh.
We did a couple during the day. Then eventually, when I went on to broadcasting at night in '96, we did a couple of broadcasts from Sylvie's at night, and we had different bands perform, and like again of their own fruition, and they did their thing. I was trying to look for the poster that I had. It's actually in this book, and I can't find the page now. But we had, people, bands was, I call them up and they would say, here you go. This is an idea of what we did like on a Saturday night at Sylvie's.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Nice.
I don't know if you can see it.
Lift it up a little bit. Right, exactly, right. Yeah, I remember.
So we did that. I mean, we did like I said, we worked with the bands. We supported the band. I mean, I supported the bands.
Right.
They in turn supported me in the program in WRTI, and it's been working out fine ever since. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, one of the things I always say at the end of my show before I go off the air is that my final quote is after saying good night. I said, remember, always remember to support the music.
Right. Right. So David, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Well, did you get involved with WRTI as a Temple student, and what were you studying at Temple?
I'm sorry?
So
when was I at Temple?
Yeah, it's two questions. So when did you start working at RTI? And
in '77.
Okay. Were you a Temple student at that time?
Yes.
Okay, so you were working, creating a show as a student.
Yes.
So no one else had a Spanish show. No one else played salsa in Philadelphia. No one else exposed the community.
Not in '77. That people had shows prior that lasted like about 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I think didn't Ray Collazo at one point
had one in the early '70s?
Yeah, in the early '70s.
And Lou Perez had one for about a year.
And they were all at RTI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody's been there for 44 years. That's incredible.
Praise God.
That's an amazing thing. And I mean, I'm a big fan of yours, David. I listen to your show anytime I'm around and wherever I can now. And you played my music, so I'm grateful to that as well. But you know, are your parents still around? If you don't mind me asking.
No, my father passed away in 2000, and my mother passed away in 2005.
So you're not the bodeguero. You didn't.
No, that's a lot now, worth like about 900 grand, man, at 7th and Master, and what they call West Kensington or Upper, whatever they're calling it now. I mean, to me, it's still North Philly, but you know.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole nother thing now. Yeah. But wow, that's incredible.
David, I just wanted to know that. Can you talk a little bit about the politics of WRTI in the sense of when you were doing those transitions?
No, I mean, it wasn't really politics. It was just they were doing shifts. I mean, they were doing shifts, and they were, they were saying, hey, more people want to hear jazz during the day. When they moved me, they offered me the slot at night. And at first I was like, you know what? This is kind of cool. At first I was hesitant, but I said, this is kind of cool. Nobody's on at night.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to do it. And I'll just put my mindset in that it's going to be like a party, like if you were at a party.
Right.
And make it go that way, you know? Right. So, and that's the way I took it, and that's the way I still take it. I tell myself, hey, man, look at it. People tell me, hey, I'm on my way to here and I'm listening to you, or I'm coming from here and I'm listening to you. We're in the backyard. We have you on. Right. We, even in the wintertime, we have the pit going on. We're sitting outside. We have you on. So to me, that my whole attitude was when I first got moved tonight, I was like, I was hesitant for like 5% because I thought about it more and more. I said, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to be on at night. I mean, granted, during the day is more of an audience, because people are washing their cars and all that stuff, and they're running errands, and they put you on. But I said, there's no night show. There hasn't been one for a long time. And I said, I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna accept the challenge, and I'll draw audience tonight. There's got to be a different audience that's gonna listen at night.
Right, right.
And
Because,
you were also doing interviews too with folks some years
oh my God,
back.
yes.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite ones are like Danny Montes used to bring artists to Camden, to the Star Diner, and to the show place.
Right.
One of my favorite interviews is with Celia Cruz when she came into the station, because we tried to get her to talk English, and she knew how to talk English. She refused to do it, so we had to do the interview in Spanish. That was, and then with Marvin Santiago, when we did one with him, when the station was getting reconstructed, when we were at 13th and Diamond, we were in a booth, and he was cracking jokes throughout the whole interview.
Yeah, he cracks jokes all the time.
and then I've had some like interviews which I say kind of humbled me, because I had one with Ruben Blades, and I said, thank you for interviewing me. He said, no, thank you for interviewing me. I said, thank you for taking the interview. And he said, no, thank you for interviewing me, because there's guys like you that keep the music alive, to move the product and let the word be known, right, that these new sounds are here. These particular artists are playing them. Listen to them and buy them. And I was like, wow, that took me out.
Yeah, kind of like describe part of your mission, really.
Yeah, and then one of the other ones that took me out was, I did one with Rafael Itiel of El Gran Combo, and I did it on a tape recorder so that I could play it later. And the first thing he said and he said this in English, he says, and I'm saying, this is David Ortiz, Wrti Viaje, recording Rafael Itiel, leader of El Gran Combo. First thing he said into the interview was, "I hear you're the man."
Right.
And I went, what? Right. Oh, wait, what? He says, "I hear you're the man." Then he said it in Spanish. "A mí me dicen que tú eres el hombre en esta área." And I was like, I was humble. I was like, I was a young boy, at the time. I didn't even, that was like, it never crossed my mind to that aspect, because, there were other stations on, and I was like, holy smokes. That was a humbling experience for me.
Yeah, but nobody,
well, a lot of time,
no one's been doing it. Sorry, Jesse. No one was doing it like presenting Latin music in Philadelphia consistently with, because you were playing music from Puerto Rico, you're playing music from New York, you're playing stuff locally, you're giving a wide spectrum of stuff. I've heard all kind of, and Latin jazz on your program. I mean, it's been really an eclectic Latin show. You've been part of the landscape of Philadelphia for, wow, 44 years. That's incredible. And that's why, again, I got to keep reiterating that, because, it's like, I think that's iconic for me. And I thought that's why it was really important to have you here. What kind of awards have you received? Has anybody acknowledged all these incredible things?
AMLA has presented me with awards, and Luis Perez we used to be a promoter in South Jersey, presented me with an award.
Nice.
I don't think, like, to me, I don't measure the awards. I measure the common respect. Right. One for instance is a good friend of mine, Nelson Rodriguez, who used to be on KXLU in California, in Los Angeles, was doing a show. And we would chit chat and talk and exchange music. And he said, "Dave, you've been on this long, man. I got to do," and he was writing for Latin Beat. And he said to me, "I got to do an interview of you and put you in Latin Beat, man. You've been forever, and you've been promoting this music, and you've been helping keeping it alive."
Exactly.
And then not only did he write the article on Latin Beat, but he was explaining to me on his show, he dedicates certain shows to different DJs, whether it's DJ Chino in Colombia, or this artist and this artist. He did an entire show and he sent me the CDs of the recordings dedicated to me and what I play on my show.
That's great.
I mean, to me, that's like
Yeah.
unheard of. But I said, man, that is like mad respect, because I knew Nelson back when he was promoting for the different record labels. Him and Henry Knowles, they were both like record promoters. They would take the music to the different record stations, and I knew them back from then. And I knew Nelson back from then, and we always talked. And I was like, hey, let's keep the music alive. I mean, he brought me guys to the station like Giovanni Hidalgo to the station for an interview.
Nice.
And different Latin jazz artists as well. And he brought them when they were associated with RMM label, their Latin jazz label. So I mean,
wow.
My thing is, I like the transfer of respect, because I've always respected guys, and I'm always asking guys, hey man, what's that you're playing? When are you coming out with this? So it's cool that you're coming out with a single, but you should like try to get a CD out. Right. People want to like buy the CD.
Right.
I'm an advocate for the music. Like people call me up and say, hey, or email me, say, hey Dave, where can I get this song? I said, but the CD is here, blah 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 blah. Well, I just want to buy the song. No, you don't. You should buy the whole CD and appreciate the entirety of the artist, not just a piece of the pie.
Well, you know what, David, you ought to talk a little bit about the fact that the Brazilian music too that you featured on your show, and some of the people that you've interviewed about that.
I was introduced a little bit of it because my mom had a couple albums of Brazil, and I didn't understand what they were saying. Really? I thought it was like funny Spanish when I was younger. I was like, what the heck is this? And I understand they were speaking Portuguese. And I got into a little bit of it, but I mostly focused on salsa and Latin jazz. And I guess it was because my mom, like, that's what she had. She had salsa, she had Latin jazz, she had mambo in her collection.
Wow.
And that's the music I learned to love and embrace.
Right.
And the boleros, of course.
Which you don't hear much of anymore, right?
No.
Do you occasionally?
I throw them always towards the end of the night, always a bolero or two.
Right.
And from different artists, not just from the same people. I'm always digging in for stuff. One of the things I was talking to somebody the other day about this is that he says to me, what do? Do you program your show? I said, honestly, I calculate that it's going to be 36 songs playing, but realistically, I bring about 100 CDs with me because I'm always changing my mind.
Yeah.
I'm always saying, oh, I think I should play this instead of this because I think this would be banging and kick it out and all that other stuff. My mindset is always racing. Like right now, I picked out music. I would say I was off a couple of days, and I picked that music like for the next 6 weeks. Somewhat. I'll say somewhat because
you get there, right?
I'm not gonna get there because, like I said, I know the maximum songs I can play is 36, and I usually bring about 90 with me. So I always going, all right, I want to bring this, and then I go, well, no, I'm gonna pull this out and I'll play this. Like I bring a case of CDs with 60, and then I bring a backpack with another like 40 in the backpack.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, David, where do you see the music moving to these days? Where do you see it from your perspective?
As far as what, live music?
Well, Latin music. Where do you see it evolving?
It's so funny you asked this question because this was the question I was gonna ask somebody else. I don't understand why Latin jazz artists are able to produce an entire CD, but salsa artists, not except for the big artists which are producing CDs, but the ones on the second and third tier, all they're producing is singles, single releases, and then they're doing it every 6 months, maybe once a year, maybe once and never again. And to me, it's like I told one guy, and he got kind of upset with me. I said, you keep releasing all these singles, you should be saving your money. Find yourself somebody who'll back you up and put it on a CD. And even if you have to create your own label, because the longevity of a salsa single in commercial radio, maybe 3 weeks, and that's that if it's on a label. On public radio, maybe 4 weeks.
Wow.
And that's that's the fact that I can't play it every week because that's against FCC regulations. So to me, there's more longevity if you release an entire CD, an entire release, because then you can pick from different songs
Right.
to play, especially the advantage of public radio where we don't follow a playlist, which gives us the advantage of having to pick from different songs on your release.
Right.
So then people get a taste of it and they go, wow, I really like that. He played that song for that week. And then another time, I think I want to go buy it. I've had people email me say, hey, I'm so glad you pick out different songs from different releases from the releases, because that makes me decide whether I want to buy it or not.
Right. Right. That's interesting.
I mean, back in the old days, when we used to get albums from Centro Musical or Johnny's on Front Street or Chino's at Fifth and York, we didn't have the advantage of opening up the album and go, hey, can I hear this to see if it sounds good or not? If I don't like it, I want to buy it. You used to have to take it home and roll the dice.
Right.
Yeah. Well, David, do you think that there needs to be a little bit more knowledge that the musicians need to have in respect to what you're talking about putting out CDs or singles? Because it seems like it's very difficult for the musicians to understand how do they really get their product out there. I mean,
I think they should be educated on it, and I can't see why they can't follow the past examples where people have put out CDs and been successful. I mean, it's a roll of the dice, but it's a roll of the dice if you want to get your music exposed that you have to take. You know, I mean, like I said, the longevity of a single CD, a single song in commercial radio, if it's on a label, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 4, if that. And then on public radio, maybe 6 weeks, because you'll be able to play it every other week. But it's a sense, like one guy told me, and we were talking the other day, he said, you know, I presented my release to a commercial radio station and they rejected it because it wasn't on a label.
Interesting.
Well, it could maybe.
And I said, I understand, but I think if you presented them with a full product, you'd probably get more attention.
Right.
And they might grasp at the idea of playing it, because then they'll say, hey, what's the song you want to feature? Blah, blah, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then maybe later on down the line, maybe a couple months later, they'll feature another track from that same CD.
Well, you know what, David, the other thing is too that I'm thinking about too is the fact that you got some of these radio stations that unless you plugged in, they're not going to play your music.
I know.
You know?
I've heard that.
We need to figure out how can that happen, or I don't know, but I know that's been.
I mean, I've heard stories where they've told them, unless you play for us at our festivals or an event or whatever, we won't play your music.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
like, that's pretty sad.
But I think nowadays there's a little more even playing ground with the internet and people having access to different social medias and different platforms to get their music on. So I think to answer a little bit, David, to your thing is that since these platforms do exist, it makes it a lot easier for artists to say, oh, okay, well, here's one song or 2 songs. But what I hear you saying, and what I totally agree with you is that you are making the choice for the people, versus if you only do one song, you're the one that's choosing that one song, versus if you have an album of 9 or 10 songs, which I'm in the process of doing. Well, who's to say I might be choosing the wrong song?
I look forward to receiving that, by the way.
Yeah. But,
right.
You know, on that note, folks, we're going to take a break right now and come back and continue this conversation.
On Sabes Que. Stay tuned. we're back to Sabes Que. We have an incredible interview going on with the incomparable Mr. David Ortiz, DJ for over 44 years at WRTI, an incredible DJ and icon in the community. And Jesse, we were just talking about, before we took a little break, about the different platforms and how people are just putting out one song and two songs thinking that they're going to get a hit. And I think the social media thing has kind of enabled that to happen, for people just to be able to do one or two songs, versus back in the day when we used to do a whole album. Albums used to have the artwork and the credits, and I used to buy albums. I don't know about you guys. I used to buy albums because of the artwork. You know, like those Joe Cuba albums when he was dressed like a pirate, and all these incredible, you know. What do you, speak a little bit about that, David? What do you think about?
Well, I like that as well. I like the artwork as well. I mean, Izzy Sanabria used to do some of the best artwork on some of the Fania labels, and the Bahia. The great covers of Sonora Ponceña were awesome.
Right.
You know, with the different nights and all that stuff. Oh man, I love their covers whenever they come out one.
Yeah.
I just love some of the latest cover is really awesome. So tell me, Jess.
He used to do the magazine too, right? Latin New York or something.
Yeah, that was his magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. They used to have the building playing maracas and shaking like the building.
Yes.
I actually have a T-shirt from one he gave me one time when I saw him in Jersey.
That's so cool.
From Latin New York magazine. Yeah, he used to live in Medford, New Jersey.
Yeah, wow. I met his sister. She lives in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, so. But, you know, to go back to the conversation about the platforms and the albums and stuff, I know that when you put more music out there, you could get somebody that look at the album and say, I like that one. And then I can come along and say, well, I like this one. And there's different tastes for different people.
Right. Based
on the music that's been recorded.
Right.
That's been my experience, right?
You're talking about from the same album.
From the same album, yeah.
Right. Okay. But think about this. In commercial radio, when a record company says, hey, I have this artist, example, Mark Anthony, here's this brand new CD, but we want you to play this song.
Right.
We want you to feature this song because we say this song is the hit. And sometimes the hit, and I've heard this over the years, it's not always the best song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the song they want to promote.
Right.
You know, I found that out because I bought out. And I've had record companies tell me back in the day to say, well, if you're not going to play this song, then we're not going to send you any more music. I said, you know, I can't force you to send it to me, because my argument back was, you guys are telling me to promote a certain song, which A, I can't do because it's public radio. B, in my opinion, and I've said this before, I don't think that's the best song to play. You know, I found and listened to other songs on the album, and I think they're better than that hit. And I want to play that because I want to encourage my audience to buy the album, not just look for a 45.
Right.
Yeah. Well, David, you know, briefly, can you just identify the difference between public and commercial? For those people that are listening, they might.
Well, public radio is listener supported, and supported by the federal government through grants that's given to public radio.
And the
radio, it lives off of selling commercials.
Right.
Public radio has more freedom, but certain stipulations. You can't actually have a playlist per se. But basically you can play what you want.
Is it more member supported?
I'm sorry?
Is it more member supported public radio? Is that
public radio is member supported and supported by the federal government, grants by the federal government.
So how do you deal with royalties? Is there anything like that exists in public radio like it does in commercial?
No. No, you're kidding. That's if I had a discussion with somebody who says, "Oh, you're not playing my music." I said, "Oh yeah, I'll play it every week. You're going to give me the $20,000 when the FCC fines me to pay that fine?"
Mm.
for doing payola?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then he said, what? I said, yeah, there's a difference.
Mm. So for people that don't know what payola is, what would that be? What
Like
I
you're paying the DJ to play the song
wow, and that's definitely illegal.
under
Okay.
the table,
Wow. Okay. Right.
which is a dangerous thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, I'm glad we're having this kind of discussion, because a lot of people really, like Pablo just asked about payola, and I just asked about the difference between the public and the commercial and how they operate. And so, I think this is important for people to know, that you just don't spin the records. You understand the industry, you understand the artists, and you know what you need to do. And of course, you've been doing it for 44 years, David.
Wow.
But not only that, just because sometimes people will get mad at me when, well, I don't take phone calls now because of the pandemic and COVID, and I don't feel like wiping the phone down 20 million times. And I just tell them to email me. But when they call me on the phone, I said, you literally got 30 seconds to talk to me, because it's not that I'm just out spinning the records. I got to get stuff prepared on the log, because I have to type in what you see on the WRTI website, what I played. I manually type that in. Then I have to prepare whatever announcements I have to make, PSAs or other announcements. I have to prepare that.
Mm.
So it's not like back in the old days where I just put on the record, write it down on a music log, and then, oh yeah, I could talk to you. Let's chit chat.
Right, right,
But
right.
them days are they're the
There's a lot
good
more.
since
There's a
past.
lot. There's a lot more work attached to it than
There's a
people
lot more
see.
work. Exactly. There is a lot more work to it now. It's not like before.
Wow.
It's stuff you got to prepare, make sure everything goes right.
Mm-hmm. David, what advice would you give someone young coming up that wanted to DJ and and come
In
up?
radio,
Yeah, come up in radio. What advice would you give anybody?
learn to hone your craft. Listen to advice from people who have done it before you.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite people, God rest his soul, was Frankie Malave
Oh
from
wow.
WIBF, Radio Hispanoamericana, 103.9, which is now, I just found out the other day that KYW is now on FM, which I'm going to miss that hissing sound when I used to listen to them.
Right.
But he, like the nights when he was in playing on WIBF, he would come by my father's store when I was working there, and we would always chit chat about the music, and we would chit chat about the industry and about WTEL when they used to be on, and he would always tell me, he says, first thing, be humble. Second thing, be even more humble. Third thing, if somebody knows more than you and they're in the industry, listen to their advice, whether you like it or not, because it could help you either not today, might help you tomorrow. And he would just tell me, fourth thing, make sure you're having fun, man, because if you're making it like a job, that's the worst feeling in the world.
Right.
And if you're loving the music that you play, that's even better.
Wow.
My father had this great saying when I first came on the air in my first year in 77. He says, and he said it to me in Spanish, no te lo echa, pero no te echa para atrás. Don't show off, but don't act like you don't know.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
So
I kind of learned. I mean, I listen to everybody, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
They're giving me positive advice. Even at this age, I go, oh, okay. That's cool.
that's very important, David. You're 100% right.
And you never know who was listening to you back in the day, or who was associated with you that's listening to you back in the day that's talked to you now. I was just talking the other day to a guy at RTI, and he's doing a documentary about the music scene in the 70s and the 80s. And he said to me, Dave, I need to talk to you, man, because I need to talk to you about your experience at Sylvie's. And I had to take a step back, and I said, how'd you know about me and Sylvie's? ah, man, I used to go there, and then even though
Mm.
I didn't understand the language, I used to like the music and all that other stuff. You know, and remember back then nobody was teaching you how to dance. So she said, I didn't know how to dance, man, but I just tap my feet and get into it. On Saturday nights when they used to bring those live bands over there, I was like, holy smokes. He said, and it was because of you, man. I said, me, yeah, I used to talk about it a whole lot on your show and blah, 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 blah. So I just decided to check it out. And now it's part of this documentary.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Landscape of
Never,
Philadelphia.
you never
Never
know.
know who you're talking to.
Mm.
One of my favorite things that I've learned, because I hear people tell me, oh man, I've been listening to you for years. But my favorite thing now that I truly, truly love, it was somebody says to me, my mom made me listen to you when I was a little kid every Saturday. And now I still listen to you.
That's great.
And I was like, wow.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that his kid is going to be listening to you too.
Amen.
Yeah, it's been a lot of great years,
Fantastic.
a lot of great music, a lot of amazing interviews, and so I mean, so where do you see Philadelphia going with the music scene? What do you see anything happening?
Hopefully it can revive itself. I mean, on the Latin jazz side, there's no problem because there's places to play for Latin jazz. It's
Hmm.
Right.
the live salsa band scene. I mean, there's only seems to be when it reopens, Isla
Right,
on American and Lehigh is
right.
seems to be only um, venue to promote salsa bands.
Mm.
So I mean, it's a what is it? A fight for one, fight for the last piece of
The pie.
fish on the plate, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah. We
So
need more
everybody's
venues.
like trying to get a gig every week. I mean, that's what's happening when Pastrana had it.
Mm.
He had it like every band was trying to play, trying to fight for that gig and play get a booking with them every Saturday. Hopefully that happens again. Hopefully my prayer
Mm.
is like places like Tierra Colombiana would address. I mean, because they bring out of state bands, out of country bands to their venues when they do bring live music,
Mhm.
that they would invite the local bands to
Mm.
perform there, even if it's not a Saturday, maybe a Friday night.
Right, right. We definitely need more venues. Philadelphia needs more
We
Right.
venues
definitely
for our
need more
music.
venues because there's so many bands per se, and not enough places to play.
Exactly, exactly.
Even though now, once in a while, since the atrium reopened, reopened her dance studio. She
Hmm.
was bringing live music to the atrium when they were on Saturday nights. I heard she might be doing it again on Fridays, at least once a month or once
Hmm.
every other month.
You know, David, the interesting thing is that the more popular the music got in Philadelphia, the less venues. You know, we had a lot of venues, right? The Spanish American, Sylvie's, you name them, you know them all, right? And then as the music kept becoming more exposed
Well,
to other audiences,
think about this. Back then, there were less bands and more venues. So what happened? People like George, rest his soul, at Sylvie's, was getting bands from New York because there was not enough bands playing because people were playing at, like you said, at the Spanish American, at the place up on La Esmeralda on Torresdale Avenue.
right?
George was having problems getting local bands to play, so he said, "Well, they don't want to play. They're choosing other places to play. I'm gonna have to find other bands to perform."
Right.
And he would grab bands from New York, and not even top tier bands. He would get like Glenn Vargas
Yeah, right.
back in the day. Like I mean, he almost used to live at Sylvie's,
Wow.
and he would get He
Wow.
says, "Hey man, these guys don't want to play. You want to play other places? Well then, I'm gonna grab other bands to play
Mm.
here and grab them from outside the state." Now we have more bands and less venues.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and we
Well,
got to find more venues.
we
That's
gotta
that's the
find.
name of the game.
Yeah. But one thing is for sure, we are very grateful for at least you being the constant in Philadelphia to constantly nourish Latin music in Philadelphia. And again, as I said earlier, me and Jesse are really privileged to have you here with us today. Let the world know David Ortiz behind the scenes and how proud we are of you as a Philadelphian, and how lucky we are to have you nourishing, you know, the Philadelphia community, the whole world for that matter now, with amazing Latin music. And on behalf of myself, Pablo Batista, and Jesse Bermudez, we'd like to thank you for being a part of Sabes Que. So,
Yeah. Thank you so much, David.
all right.
And I'm sure that a lot of our listening audience learned something from what you have exposed to us today about your life as a DJ in Philadelphia on WRTI El Viaje.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having me. Pablo, I just want to say one thing, man, before I cut off. I'm so grateful that the 600 place on Broad Street is bringing Latin jazz there. Because there's very few places that are bringing Latin jazz in Philly.
South.
Like Christopher's was doing it. Now I'm so glad that 600 South is actually doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm trying to keep the torch. I'm trying to hold it down. Thank you for not only doing this interview, but inspiring me as a musician, and also helping me with some of the suggestions that you gave me on my next record coming up. I'm working on the same thing we talked about, having the whole nine songs or 10 songs. Stay tuned to that, David. But I thank you.
I look forward to receiving it and being able to play it on my show, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And thank you for playing my first record, Ancestral Call. You really took care of me with La Factoria and Numerito and Cesar de la Paz, who produced it with me and wrote with me. So thank you for that. But on behalf of Sabes Que, we love you, David Ortiz.
Yeah,
awesome.
We love you, man.
Take care and God bless, brother.
On moving.
Right back, man.
All right.
Sabes Que.
Hasta la próxima.